Thank you very much, Mr. Norbert. And I too want to join in to wish our students who are returning to school very enjoyable and productive year, as well as our teachers. We know that you have a heavy load to carry in terms of helping to shape our nation's youth, but we know that you have and will continue to do a good job of it. I would like at this point to call on the next presenter, Mrs. Marcella Johnson, and in the case of Marcella, she will be speaking on the subject of misogyny and she-flation, that's the word, she-flation. Misogyny and she-flation. Unfortunately, we see misogyny in high offices coming from who's supposed to be among our leaders in this country. And it is a matter that we should not ignore, that we should take cognizance of and do something about. I present to you Mrs. Johnson, who will speak on the subject.
Good morning, members of the press, persons watching from home and abroad. Misogyny and disrespect have no place in our society. The prejudice against women and girls in our society, this has no place here. Yet, women in leadership are too often judged not by our vision or record, but by insults, innuendo, and personal attacks. This is not just wrong for me. It is wrong for every woman in St. Lucia and for every young girl who dares to lead. As someone who grew up with 6 brothers, I knew from an early age that women were treated differently to men. Women were not given the same liberties as men, thereby placing them in a lower social status. And I have always fought for equality. For too long, women in St. Lucia have been disrespected, abused, and silenced. We know the stories. Take for instance, our police force. Women came forward against a senior police officer for allegations of sexual misconduct. And rather than being investigated, this man has been promoted. We hear about crime and public safety. But what measures are being taken to protect the women in our police force? And what does the ongoing failure to do so say about our system? The female reporter who says she was shoved out of Parliament. Then later, we see the news of her being threatened with arrest for speaking up. And every single week, a minister uses his television show to shame women, insult women, demean women. And you know, he will make up all kind of lies. This minister doesn't know me, but will make up all kind of lies about my personal life, untruths. I've always worked for the bank for the last 25 years, but he will make up lies as if I worked for somebody else. And his surrogates, the SLP surrogates, will go on Facebook and spread those lies. But I say to him, cease and desist. This is not entertainment. This is misogyny. And misogyny destroys lives. And while these attacks continue, what is most alarming is the silence from the Prime Minister and his cabinet. Their silence is not neutrality. It is a failure of leadership, a refusal to uphold the dignity of women in this nation. That silence emboldens misogyny and signals to society that such behavior is tolerated. And so, I say, enough. We will not be silent. We will not be shamed. We will not allow our daughters to inherit the same culture of fear and disrespect that too many of our mothers endured. This is our fight. And to the men of St. Lucia, we need you, not as protectors of women's bodies, but as partners in building a society of respect, equality, and justice. Men, we need you. It ends here. It ends now. It ends with us, determined women and men who stand beside us. But the abuse of women, it does not stand alone. It collides with poverty. And it is women, especially single mothers, who carry the heaviest load. The reality for women is clear in every community. Too many women are trapped in poverty, juggling work, children, and household responsibilities on limited incomes. Women head approximately 40% of households in St. Lucia, yet they carry the heaviest burdens when prices rise. We are now facing what the world calls she-flation. She-flation, rising prices for groceries, school supplies, and utilities hurt everyone, but women feel it first and most. Consider this. It is end of August and school reopens in about a week. Mothers across St. Lucia are standing in store aisles trying to stretch every dollar, literally stretch every dollar. They are forced to choose. Do I buy uniforms or textbooks? Shoes or lunch supplies? One mother told me last week she could not buy both uniforms and new shoes and books for her child. She had to choose. These are the real consequences of rising costs, not abstract numbers, but families struggling to start the school year. And yet, while families struggle and women make these sacrifices, the Prime Minister and his cabinet remain silent for too long. No policies, no urgency, no acknowledgement of the hardships families face until we, the United Workers' Party, force their hands, because we understand what you are going through. That is weak leadership by the SLP administration. Whilst VAT was removed on 70 food items, I would like to remind you, the women of St. Lucia, that this government forgot you. They forgot about the single mothers. They never considered the removal of VAT on feminine hygiene products and on the sanitary napkins. It was only on Tuesday, August 19th, that the House of Assembly passed legislation to permanently remove VAT on feminine hygiene products. A clear indication of the government's lack of concern for struggling families. Certain talk show hosts and SLP operatives, they know themselves, will spin the truth about sanitary napkins, but the facts are there. VAT was not removed on sanitary napkins until Tuesday. Stop the lies. The small relief you feel from the VAT reduction, it is not because this government suddenly cares. No, it's not because they care about the cost of living. It is because the United Workers' Party, together with your voices, your pressure, force their hand. If you are feeling some relief at the supermarket, remember this. It was won for you, not handed to you. It was won for you because of the pressure by the United Workers' Party. While families were struggling and women were sacrificing, this government remained silent until we made them act. St. Lucia needs leadership that acts, not one that stays silent in the face of injustice and the hardship that we women face. No mother should have to choose between shoes and textbooks. No worker should feel the weight of rising prices alone. And no citizen should have to endure silence from those who claim to lead. In closing, I say it ends now, because we will fight. Misogyny and disrespect have no place in St. Lucia. Not for me, not for any woman, not for our girls. She-flation hits women hardest, and we will fight it. The VAT relief you are enjoying today, we want it for you. No mother should have to choose between shoes and books. This is what real leadership addresses. Silence from the Prime Minister and Cabinet is not neutrality. It is a failure of leadership. Leadership by this SLP administration. SLP must go. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mrs. Marcella Johnson, and you just heard us speak on the subjects of misogyny and she-flation. Of course, misogyny we see being exercised, being practiced, being demonstrated at the highest level in this land, as there is a member of cabinet who spearheads attacks on women on behalf of the St. Lucia Labour Party on a weekly basis. This, ladies and gentlemen, as a society, we should not tolerate, we should not condone, we should not entertain, and we must all speak out against it. These bad examples from the very top cannot be allowed to go as normal, because we are teaching our young men in particular a very dangerous lesson. Women have played their part in our society building in St. Lucia. As a matter of fact, it is women who have carried the heavier burden in building our society and shaping the country that we have today. So, the least we can do is show our respect and treat them as equals. Ladies and gentlemen, I would like to thank you. I would like to thank our presenters, Mr. Elisha Norbert and Mrs. Marcella Johnson. I would like to thank those of you who have been listening through social media, those of you in the diaspora especially. And we want to ask that you join us on Thursday when we will have a session on Meet the Opposition. And on that occasion, you will hear more from the women of the United Workers' Party, since they appear to be the only voices in St. Lucia today who speak out on subjects and issues affecting women. We cannot depend on the women of the St. Lucia Labour Party who are themselves in Parliament, who have leadership positions. They have remained mute and will continue to remain mute because of the fact that they see nothing wrong with what their male colleagues are doing, perpetrating the abuse on women. But we ask that you join us on Thursday from 9 at Meet the Opposition, where our ladies will continue to address that issue. On Sunday, we will have another Flambeau Live, and it will be coming from the constituency of Ancillary Canneries. And of course, I ask that you look forward and mark the date. It is September 7th, when we will go down to Miku, where the United Workers' Party will have a mass rally where the 17 candidates will all appear on one stage, and they will be presented to you, the country, as the team that will salvage the misfortunes that we are experiencing now, that will salvage the country from the degradation and decay that we are experiencing under the St. Lucia Labour Party. So, be there to witness for yourself the presentation of what I call Team Salvation. Ladies and gentlemen, have a good week and enjoy your weekend.